Bonsoir, tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the 12th meeting for the 12th of June. We have an absence. Councillor Janice Cormier did not feel well. So she's resting at home, and she'll hopefully all will be better. Before starting, it's something that I did before that I'd stopped doing though. I would note that we are gathered on traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And I just wanted to have a moment of silence. May 21st, former director David Stevens died suddenly. And given his position in the federal public service, it's the most important one actually in Canada in terms of pensions. He was also a native of Shediac, the first to achieve such a role. I'm proposing a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you very much. Mr. Warden, and now I can turn to my left. We have quorum. We see we have quorum. So, second declaration of conflicts of interests. Does any member of the council wish to declare a conflict of interest related to anything on the agenda? So approval of agenda. So you have the agenda as presented. There's one addition. Appointment to a committee. I'll just make a small change with respect to a committee. Anyway, you'll see then. It's a small change then. I just need someone to propose that we adopt the agenda as modified. Moved by Councillor Desprez, seconded by Harry McElroy. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. So number 5, minutes of the meeting held on May 29, 2023. I would simply need someone to move that we approve the minutes. Deputy Mayor Cindy Collet-Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. I was about to say Boudreau. I was about to say, oof. I had a few corrections to bring to this. It was under 7.1. It's in the order. It's the motion that had been tabled. In the minutes, the table appears before the motion. You have to have a motion on the floor already to table it. So could we please adjust that in the text? It's just a question of moving a paragraph. And under 10.1, it says this was a motion moved by Councillor McElroy that had been rejected, but the vote is 10 for and 11 against. So McElroy proposed something that did not was not approved, so it should be 1 for and 11 against instead of what was there. A friendly amendment. It's just a correction. Anything else? Councillor Sylvie, is your mic on? You're asking me the question? Sorry, I don't want to, but actually the motion is correctly written. English is correct. It doesn't read as well in French. I didn't realize I was reading it in English, but my brain hadn't made the switch. Thank you. Pardon me. Councillor Bertin. Councillor Bertin. In terms of those present, Sylvie, Jean-Claude Bertin, Deputy Mayor. We won't have two at the same time. And that day, it was you that was in the chair. It was only officialized that very evening in terms of Deputy Mayor Sylvie. So just to correct that small thing as well, it's rare that we have two deputy mayors at the same time. So all those in favor to approve the minutes as modified? All those in favor? All those contrary-minded, nay say nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much. So in terms of public presentations, today We have our auditors from Grant Thornton. I see Kent Ostrich here. So if you'd like to come do your short presentation. Venez.
Today,
I'm doing great.
I think we ordered good weather just for you.
Well, we all want it, so I'll appreciate it. So we're gonna go through the audited statements tonight. There's a draft copy on the overhead. We went through them in detail a week ago and asked questions with regards to them. So
Mhm.
I'm just gonna touch on a few of the, I guess, key points to have. So we'll go to page 3. So we've basically completed our audit. Once when council approves the statements tonight, they'll be done and you have signed, or you have statements for signatures. And we've got the rep letters today, so all of that is tidied up. So you have a clean auditor opinion, which is what you're, I guess, looking for when you start the process, and no significant findings of concern. To touch on some of the key financial highlights for the year, we'll start with page 3. So your financial assets are 10 million compared to 8 million. Biggest item to draw attention to there is the receivables. You'll note that they're 5.4 million. They're up because of the capital receivables, which is just the timing at year end. Your financial liabilities are 20.6 million, up from 18.2. And you'll note that the biggest change there is bank loans, which is 2.5, which is generally just a timing. When the capital comes in, everything gets paid, and then that'll get switched to debentures that are outstanding. Payables include capital payables of 2.5 million, and it was 1.3 million the year before. So that gives you net debt of 10.6 million compared to 10.2. I guess the question is sort of what is net debt? Way the accountant looks at it, it's the balance of money that you owe or still haven't paid off on your tangible capital assets. So if we jump down a little bit, you'll see your tangible capital assets are 48 million. So you've paid off about 37 of them, and you have 13 left to pay. So that's sort of a way to look at it. It's the
Okay.
sort of on that balance that may help a little bit with how you view it. We go to the next page, we'll get the statement of operations, which is really comparing how the town did in relation to the budget versus the actual spending. So your budgeted revenues were 15.3 million. We come in at 16.2. Most of your revenue items were higher than budgeted. A couple of the things that led to that was provincial funding, which would be capital projects. So that came in a little better than what was budgeted. And the other area, main area, was building permits, came in again higher than budgeted.
Mhm.
And then there was some sundry accounts sort of catch all that were caught there. Those were the bigger changes. On your expenditures, you'll see the budgets versus the actual. So your total budget, it was 14.8, you come in at 14.9. If you go back through pages 17 to 21, I won't take you back through there, but everything is very consistent and in line with expectations, which again is what we would have was what we normally would have expected. So you had a budgeted surplus of 485,000. Now that's PSAP, which is different than your local government, which we had gone through before.
Mhm.
And there's a reconciliation in the back to help you catch the timing differences. But just quickly to hit them again, it's in your local government, you're expensing your debt repayments. We don't for PSAP, we record depreciation. Also your second year surplus that has to come into, or deficit, that comes through second year after, that's in your local government, and we remove that from here. So they're back in a schedule, and you ended up with a surplus of about 1.2 million compared to 2.3 from the year before. If we go to the next page, page 5, we'll touch on sort of the changes in net debt. So biggest changes to highlight is there was purchases of tangible capital assets of about 4.3 million last year, and your amortization was only 2.7. So you had an increase. there, and that's flowing through for your net debt. On page 6 is your cash flow. So this shows you a little bit of where money's flowing. We take the surplus for the year of 1.2. We add the non-cash items of depreciation, amortization, depreciation of 2.7. And then we get your change in receivables and payables. Most of the change in the receivables and the payables is related to your capital. We touched on that back on the balance sheet. So receivables, and again, that's timing at the end of the year when projects are getting, I guess, submitted and wrapped up. So you generated 2.2 million of cash. As you said, we touched on it, 4.3 million of capital asset additions. And then financing, you paid 1.3 million of debt and you borrowed 2.5 temporarily. So there was actually a positive on the debt side. So that showed that your cash was down 1 million and you started the year with 5.5 million. So you ended with 4.5 million in cash. So those are the key points with regards to the statements. There's a couple of notes that I did want to draw your attention to. We go through on page 15. There's a couple of notes that the province is interested in. It's the short-term borrowing compliance. So we've got that disclosed in note 9. You're in compliance with both the operating fund and the interfund. Note 10 has the water sewer surplus deficit, and that's tracking the 2-year roll. So there's 3 years there for both your years. And obviously water transfers, again, confirmation that you're compliant with regards to the provincial rules around that. And the last page to touch on is going to be page 23, and it's your reserve fund. So just want to touch on those because those were what you have going forward to next year. So your operating reserve, you have one for the general fund and one for the water, and there's caps on those, and you're fairly close to the cap on both of those funds. So that's money that you could use in your annual operating budget if you needed to, either when you're doing the budget or if you hit an unexpected surprise throughout the year, you could take money out of there. We also have 2 capital reserves, one for the general and one for the water, and that's for future capital purposes. So you've got some money set aside. So that could be used to pay interest, could be used to pay debt, or it also can be used to fund additions that you have during the year instead of borrowing. You could use some of that cash. So those are key reserves that you track. And you'll note at the bottom of the page, the province does want to see the resolutions and who's passed them for compliance so that they're compliant with all those statutes. So that is a highlight of going through the statements based on the previous meeting. So I will see if there's any other questions or this time.
Any questions on behalf of council? I see Councillor Peter. However, I will mention the previous discussion that we had was also during a public meeting, just it was the regular plenary session. Conseiller Peter Bro.
Yeah, my question is on the depreciation of assets. I know you have a range in there because some items depreciate faster than others, but who has the authority to decide on the percentage? Because there's a range, right?
Yep.
So is it your office or can we depreciate some item faster? Or is there a law that says, because you have a range there, right?
Yep. So there's no lock rule that says it has to be this. There's some guidance that the province issues and says for these different types of assets, here's your window. And normally what you would do is every, say, 4 or 5 years, you would go through and say, how are those estimates or ranges applying to us?
When you say you, is it us or
Yeah,
you
the
guys?
town, sorry, the town. So the town would look at it, but we will also take a look at it to see if there should be an adjustment to it. And we'll take a look at it usually every year to see if there's something going on there that pops. So, but for a lot of it, like a lot of it's infrastructure and stuff, and you amortize it over those periods, unless you've had to go do major repairs to a particular street or something.
Okay.
So would be an effort on behalf, on the part of the town's administration in terms of public works with the finance director and the
Yep.
RCAO, you know, et cetera.
You generally don't see a lot of changes in that, but you would, in case something happened. An event like I'll say the weather that we've been having in that could cause a change where some property was damaged and the decision was made to shorten that period. So that would be an example of something that would cause you to sort of rethink that.
Or like the computer system, like, computer system is not very long, but if, if an asset is changed and it's not totally amortized, that total amortization goes right to our bottom line as an expense?
Yeah, so if you say bought a computer for $3,000 and you kept it for 3 years and there was still 1,000 left, we'd write the $1,000 off when
As
the
an
trader
expense.
did it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens immediately.
Thank you.
Welcome. See. Perfect. Other part you were touching on, Kent, or?
Nope.
That was it?
That covers off the key points.
Because we had gone through the part on the debt ratios and whatnot in the plenary session. But
Yep.
Perfect. So. Just get back to the screen. Donc, j'aurais besoin.
So I think it's Councillor Patricia would do the first reading. Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved that the council approved the consolidated financial statement for the fiscal year terminating ending December 31st as presented, proposed by Councillor Patricia Chevalier, seconded by Galland. Any questions on this motion? Otherwise, all of those in favor say, "Oh, sorry." Councillor Roland. Thank you, Your Worship.
2 million surplus?
Yep.
Where is that going in which column? Is that going in a reserve fund? Is that the norm or the administration figures out where we want to put it, or where does it normally go?
So that's your accounting surplus.
Yep.
So what you're more concerned about is what I'll say is your local government surplus. And usually what happens in December, administration will track that number and they will recommend it to council whether anything should be moved into the reserve funds or not. Now, I'm gonna try to, I don't know if I have what the reserve.
Is it
So I think
the-
your general fund, local government surplus was 42,000 this year. And the water was 96.
so the 1.2 is not the 1.2?
The 1.2 is an accounting surplus,
Not a real.
Not
surplus?
not a real surplus.
cash on
no.
hand.
Not a
Okay.
cash surplus.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're more concerned with the operating fund of 42 and the water fund of 96.
Essentially, when those motions come out late in the budget year, near Christmas time or before that, anyway, November usually, council will vote to put X amount of dollars into the reserve fund. If there's some there, type thing, save it for the rainy day. Because any cash surplus left on the table, and there could be, because we're not quite at closing date for the budget, those are deferred for 2 years into not the following year's budget. So for 2022, we would have that as an income in 2024. You can't touch it in between. That's all it is. So the idea is, if there's an amount, well, if it's minimal, at least you've got for the next year in 2023, this current one, if we put in $150,000 into the reserve fund, we can go get it if needed for a particular project. If we don't, we actually can't touch it until the following year. Sounds good. I think I got that right. Now. Donc.
So, I have a motion on this on the floor. Patricia and Germain, all those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. So now we have a second resolution related to the financial statement to name the accounting firm. Councillor Emile was going to do the resolution. Be it resolved that the council name the accounting firm Grant Thornton as the auditors for the town of Shediac for the financial year ending 31 December 2023. I so move. Counselor by Counselor Emil O'Brien, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Boudreau. Any questions? I would only add that for the proposal, it was at three. This is the third year. Next year, it was to try to have 4 ans, 4 years. So it was for 4 years. It's the last year.
I think it was a 5-year quote and next year's year 5.
Next year's my 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
last year, but it's either 4 or 5.
I know next
Last-
year's the last year. So, all right. Anyway, so. On you, avec ça.
So we'll go ahead with that. So great. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Merci bien.
Oh. Donc, on continue. Lecture de correspondance.
We continue. We're going to read some correspondence. Mr. CAO request. The council received a request for a donation from the ATV Country Wheelers Club. It's the club that represents our region. I think that the council remember a few weeks ago, they had requested a letter of recommendation for a project that they were submitting to the Regional Development Society. They received the financing requested. So now the group is working to build a new shelter to serve the members and visitors coming into our region. And it's a financing, they're undertaking a financing campaign to seek the rest of it. And they have a sponsorship program for $2,500. You can get a panel with your company or here the municipality put up for 25 years in exchange for one annual contribution of $2,500. And given that the town has always supported this club, the administration is recommending that the council make this donation, but it is up to you if you so choose to do it. It would come from the budgetary envelope for sponsorships and grants. Great. I think Councillor Paul was going to do that resolution. I will move it, but I do have a comment after for it. Be it resolved that council grant a $2,500 donation to the ATV Country Wheelers Club to help with the construction of a new shelter, and that these funds be drawn from account 1-21033 subsidies. I so move. Councillor by Councillor Paul Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. Any questions? Paul, did you want to save your comment for the end? Yes, please. Councillor Roland Cormier. I'd like to amend the motion. You can propose an amendment. I'd like to propose that we contribute 2,500, an additional 2,500 to increase it to $5,000. So Councillor Renard Cormier moves, proposes that we be amended to go up to $5,000, counseled by Councillor Joël Després. On this proposal, are there any questions or comments? And then we can vote on 5,000. If the 5,000 is accepted, that's what it will be. If the 5,000 is defeated, we'll come back to 2,500. Just to be sure that people follow what's going on here. We can now take questions. Councillor Peter Bro, the question is for Councillor Cormier. Is there a special reason to increase it by 2,500? Thank you, Your Worship. It's an organization that I think deserves to have the support of the council. It's an organization that has a lot of volunteers, that they do a lot of things, the trails. They may have even built a bridge last year. I think it's our role as a council to help them, to make progress. It's an organization, as you know, that brings a lot to the town of Shediac. Before my arrival, I believe you saw fit to do trails that led to businesses. The more we can bring to our region, the better it is for our business people. And from 2,500 to 5,000, I think that they're still looking for 44,000. I think they have a bit to get for. The goal is to help them out more than to the tune of $2,500. That's it. Thank you for stipulating, for indicating. Councillor Emilio O'Brien, thank you, Your Worship. My question was originally, why are we giving $2,500? I found it was high, but I don't think it's justified to give $5,000. We give $20,000 for the building the bridge. As the motion is written, it mentions 2,500 of donation. I'd be against 5,000. I would stick with the 2,500, as per the request. That's your level of comfort with it. Well, I find 5,000 too much. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Patricia Brooke Chevalier, thank you, Your Worship. I don't know if anybody wants to answer me on this one. With the CAO, what's the balance remaining in the 21033, the subsidies account? That was the question. The administration bring a recommendation of 2,500. They checked that the amount was there. The 2,500 additional would be a question of where we would take it. Well, for at this time, that budget is at 53,575, and the balance is 39,774. So in the 6 first months, we haven't used 50% of the account. We've used about 26% of the account up to date so far. Thank you for the detail. Well, I support the amount of $5,000. It's a significant amount that remains in the account. It's a subsidy. It's a one-off subsidy. It's not an annual subsidy that would repeat. I hope they don't build a shelter every year. I wouldn't think so. Councillor Paul Boudreau. For the $5,000, what worries me, it's first time I've seen us giving 2 times more than the group is asking. I'm fearful that we're creating a precedent. We do make a lot of donations to many other organizations. $5,000. You're right. It's a great group. I'm part of them. Okay, when they come, somebody comes, they expect to receive twice as much. I don't have a problem with doubling the amount. The comment. I'll say it after the vote. Mr. CAO, just a little detail for Councillor Boudreau and for everyone. They didn't ask a specific amount. The club has a system of sponsorship where they have 3 levels.
So the first level is 500, and then you have like a sign for 1 year, option 2 to a 2,500, the same sign, but for 25 years. So that's why the recommendation, the administration recommended this option, but the return on investment was better. But the third one, anyone who's making a donation above 2,500, the one who gave more at the end of the campaign, they will receive a special recognition, but the 2,500 was our recommendation based on the 3 options presented by the club. Thank you. On the amendment of a donation of $5,000, all those in favor saying aye. Against nay. 1 nay. It's adopted. Thank you. 7.2, like an additional financing request. So we voted on the amendment for $5,000. So it's bring us like, it changes like the motion. So we would have to vote twice. So you were right, Peter. It's just a number. So it would be like the additional. For the main motion, like a total donation of $5,000. Yes. To vote for the 5,000. One last vote. We can vote and I will have a comment. All those in favor saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Council Boudreau. I have no problem at all for this motion, even the one like my concern, like the motions are prepared in advance. So if it wasn't done, so the motion for Councilor Cormier, he would have moved it, and that would have been it. It's a trend like the last 4 or 5 meetings. So the motions are prepared in advance. Yes, it's to our request. Like it shows a lack of transparency. Like we have like the council members like for debate. I have no problem of accepting, like, but just to see how can we discuss like the items, especially when it comes to donations and fund and requests for money. I don't know if there would be another meeting because I trust like the administration. We saw the last 4 or 5 meetings, like the motion, we have it right away. We vote on it and there's not a lot of debate. So that's my concern. So maybe to discuss to a meeting, like how to make those files go forward. And it's positive. I mean, it was something like the council members indicated we wanted to a recommendation on the file. So either like a donation request or a more complex file on behalf of the administration. So it included it. So they put it in the resolution, but we could have like a discussion document. So we could present it a little bit different if you. Yes, Mr. The CAO. I wanted to add like the same information. We were asked the administration to come up with recommendations. So that's what we're doing. And once the recommendations on the table, so the council certainly has the authority and the freedom to adjust this as they wish, as you just did this evening. But the idea to have a recommendation from the administration is to start the discussion instead of only like to present a letter without the recommendations from the administration. So we will work how the council mandates us to do so. So in terms of for the additional financial request, so if you can give us like a little bit of context. So this request came last minute, and it's well, it's understandable. It's following like a forest fires that occurred in Nova Scotia. And you probably know, like the majority probably knows, like for a certain time, the town of Shediac, and it's a lobster festival, has like some kind of amicable, like a friendly rivalry, like with the municipality of Barrington, Nova Scotia, because they're saying they're the lobster capital of Canada, and we are saying we're we're the lobster capital. So because of the forest fire, like the festival was canceled. So the festival, like the Shediac Lobster Festival Committee, the organization itself, would have liked to do something special in order to try to encourage and recognize like the situation. Some could say devastating in Nova Scotia, by creating a new activity here in Shediac, like during our lobster festival. But it would mean to welcome like a delegation of 20 individuals from the region of Barrington in Shediac. And the lobster festival did not have this money in their budget. So they're asking the municipality to consider this special project that would cost around $7,000. Once again, it's something, it's at your discretion. if you want to do so, like the administration suggests, it could be go under the special projects of the council, because it would be like a friendly gesture between two municipalities and two provinces, but the final decision is up to the council. Thank you. Councillor Germaine Gallant, I thought you would read this motion or start the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the council grant a 7,000 donation to the Shediac Lobster Festival to help with their initiative to support the Shelburne County Lobster Festival 2023, and that these funds drawn from account 1-28253 special projects of the council. I shall move. Moved by Councillor Germaine Gallant, seconded by Councillor Patricia Bourg-Chabary. Questions on the motion? Councillor Patrick. Not necessarily a question like Victor, described the request really well. Like there was three Shediac committee member that would go to Shelburne during their festival to do to promote our festival. And people from Shelburne also would go to our festival, but because of the forest fires and that they had to cancel the festival, that's when the money came into play, because it occurred some expenses, even if they did not have any festival. So that's why we thought it would be an important gesture to invite them, and they would not necessarily have the budget. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you were supposed to go to Shelburne. Yes, I was supposed to go there to be a judge. So we discussed of the activities that could happen. It would be done through Pascal Poirier. It would be an activity it would be the town. It would be public relations with the town, with the municipal. So it might be this side. So that's why if the town had some budgets to contribute. So between myself and Germaine, because we discussed last Wednesday and the letter was written, and then it's here for the vote tonight. So if there are any questions, we could try to answer them. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought that it would be in the Shediac region, we'll rent those rooms. Well, that would be the goal. Would be the goal. Councillor Patricia, yeah. So all the rooms in the town of Shediac are rented for during the week of the festivals. No, they did not try. There is no availability. What is the budget for the lobster festival for the last couple of years? Well, that's a good question. You mean the total budget? So the subject for the budget for the town of Shediac, the grant for 2023 is $75,000. It's for the lobster festival, and another 25, so 75,000. So we just with a request a month ago, to do a cultural exchange, so we send the delegations in Louisiana last minute, and it costs 10,000, give or take, around 8,000, if I remember well. Now we're asking last minute, we're asking for another 7,000 to lodge individuals that were unfortunate, they could not hold their festival, Mother Nature did not collaborate with them. I have a bit of a hard time with this. I really have a hard time with this, that we would go forward, because we're paying people so they come and visit us. I can find other places to spend the $7,000. I will have not to support this motion. Thank you. Mrs. Deputy Mayor, yes, I don't want to be insensitive, but I know it's last minute, there's not another board meeting So the festival, the organization of the committee of the festival, don't they have like a reserve for rainy days? So maybe we could divide like the bill, like could be maybe like a special meeting. I know that eventually, like if the festival does not have any money, it will go fall back on the shoulders of the town. In the meantime, because I know it's devastating what happened to Nova Scotia. That's not what I'm saying. If we told him we'll send them maybe a truckload of food or for someone who lost their house or someone like this, I would understand more. But for this, I do not feel, I feel really bad for them, but I have a hard time, like for many things, I told them why like does the town of Shediac has to foot the whole bill and the festival cannot temple, and two, maybe we should divide it like half and half, like from the get-go, and three, might have other places to invest money for people who might need more than come and visit. And I agree with you, Councilor Aya, and it's not, I'm not against things like that. Like I like to give, I have a big heart, but for this case, well, I'm not sure, like it's my place to do so. Would like to give an information, an additional information. And I understand like your comments. People were not invited yet. Maybe they will not even come here. Like it's just like the festival does not have the funds, like, and so that's why they thought about the town. If the town is not ready, that's okay. They will not be deceived because they don't know. Like the festival wants to do something, so it's just the festival wanted to do something, but and organize something like with Fishermen Council or to attract people, but it's done and it's last minute because the council, our council here will not meet for another 2 weeks. So if it's a wish of the councilors, if not, well, it's still okay. It was just to process the request. Councilor Lloyd.
How many people specifically want to come?
About
That's it.
20.
We put a, and it's more like the people a little bit from the committees and fishermen that would come for the competition, and but there's no amount of people dressed like a list because they haven't been invited yet, because we don't know if the festival doesn't know if they have the funds.
Can the festival itself, with their budget of 75,000, not handle a portion of this 7,000?
They made up all their budget. Like all the budget from the town is all already like specified in
It's already planned for.
yeah,
Yeah.
in other budget items.
But you're
so-
talking $300 a person plus.
Yeah, and maybe it won't be $7,000 like
Well, okay, if it's
Like
not,
they-
if
they-
it's not
they-
7,000.
they had like 5 days to put up something to find prices for rooms, and so,
I do
So
understand.
probably would be around 7.
yeah. and
I
if
do
it's
understand,
less,
but there's a lot of
like-
variables here.
mm,
You know, with $7,000, we were just debating an extra $2,500 for a shelter
mm, mm,
within our region. And I do understand this position.
Mm.
These fires are serious, have been serious.
Mm.
But $7,000, $300 a person approximately. I think we have to be responsible to our constituents here.
and that's why they didn't go public or invite or anything before it comes here, so it's like, so,
I understand your point. Thank
so
you.
that's why
Thank
they
you, Mr.
didn't want to
Mayor.
do it.
Thank you, Councilor Lloyd. Conseiller Paul Boudreau.
Juste une question. De ça, je veux comprendre, il y a une délégation qui était censée aller à Shelburne.
Ben, il y avait
There was a delegation supposed to go to Shelburne. There were 3 person and Mr. Mayor also was supposed to go. How much did it cost it? Was it supposed to go? I know you're not going. So I presume like a 2,000 to 3,000, I think it was $2,000 something. So if you're not going, couldn't it be deductible if the mayor's not going there to judge like a contest? So the mayor was going on his own dime. Is because, is it savings we had? They already put this money on an activity in the same evening as the fireworks, so it was July 1st, so they put that $2,000 like to do an activity downtown. They just decided this like last minute, so if you didn't go, so they were asking like money from another source. So am I wrong by saying this? If you didn't go to Shelburne, you would give this money, put this money elsewhere, ask money from another source. So they allocated like this, the 2,000 before this was on the table. Maybe they wouldn't have organized like an activity after the fireworks. So we have a resolution on the table for $7,000 an agent for this project. So I will call the vote. Since people express some reserve, I would ask just to raise your hand when you vote. And also will help. All those in favor, raise your hand. Against? The motion was defeated. So perfect. In financial report, well, will be for the next meeting. Policing services is every 3 months, so they're not here this evening. And 8.2.2, like a fire department, you would have received a report from the fire chief, and he's not here this evening, so just maybe it's for your information. Councillor Peterborough, I have a question like for the fire department. I'm not sure if that's here. I have to bring this question, or for the maybe like councillor's request, like for the fire. You mean forest fires? But I was asked by 2 residents that are in the amalgamated region, so they have large wooden properties, and usually like when they clean, like they have to burn like branches, like to know now they are within the town limit. Are they still allowed to do? So the simple answer would be yes, because there is no municipal bylaw that was extended to the new regions. So they have the same right if they were allowed to do last year. Well, so did the province remove like the restriction? The resident would have to check with the natural department, resources department, so they make the decision if it's red, yellow, or green. Just to answer, like the Councillor so it changed every 24 hours, like for they have to consult like the provincial website, so every day around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so the map is updated. So if they're outside the former bound limits of the town of Shediac, so they have to check there, but it changes on a daily basis. So Mr. Clerk just showed the map. So there's part of it, it's green or yellow, depending where you live. So just check the map. That's the golden rule. 8.3, like building permits report, so you should have received it. So what I'm noting, and I will let the CEO to talk about it more. So after 5 months, I mentioned it like at the Chamber of Commerce, after 5 months, we already broke our record from last year. It was for 12 months. There's one permit that is a substantial permit value. Mr. Pellerin, I don't know if you would like to make a quick comment. I think you summarize it well. If some council members have any question, well, so the commercial permit value, so that's where the big amount comes from. So they're ready to start the construction, so it came out in 2023. Maybe for the councilors' information. Currently, because we amalgamated some LSDs, so the building permit for Shediac Cape Skoduk, it's their accountant for there, so it will increase like the value. It will be more than the previous years, but we do not have like big projects in a smaller region. So I just wanted to mention it to the council members. So we have new projects coming out. So it should be a good year once again for building permits. Thank you. So the next item, Mr. CEO report. I don't know if you had anything to mention, something to highlight. You should have a copy of my report, but the last couple of weeks, like between the meeting of the Canadian Federation Municipalities in Toronto and the municipal administration of New Brunswick in Edmundston, the meeting, I was not in the office as much as usual. So trying to work on the files because we're constantly working on the vacant position like within the administration. So we spent some time to discuss also the financial statements for this evening, and you saw like the list of different meetings that we had recently, like try to make some files go forward. So unless there's specific a question, but there's some activities coming up in June, a few of them. So as you can see, like at the end of the report of this week, like there's like the golf tournament, like for the Greater Shediac Chamber of Commerce, and also the AGM for CAFE. So the two will be held on the June 15th. Other than this, well, if any members of the council have questions, I will answer them. Councilor Emilio Byron, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just curious, like how many positions do you have to fill like within the administration? There is still the position for like a position for directors, a 4 position total within the administration to fill. There is a finance position for finance director, the new like the recreation installation superintendent, communication officer, and also like the reservation worker. Like these are the positions we're trying to fill, but the finance director, that's the one we're focusing more. The others who were working like with the arrival of our new directors, so they are in place and they're part of the selection process. Thank you. So yes, it's it's coming up. Number 10, recommendation from the Southeast Regional Service Commission. So we have one the zoning rezoning request. I think it's the deputy mayor. Jeff, I would like to talk this. At least it would give us like give you some context and explain what's happening with this one. First, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council Member. It's the same presentation that we did last week. It was a plenary meeting. It's just to give you a brief summary. It's a request, a zoning bylaw amendment from R2 to R3 to allow like 4 buildings, like multifamily unit, like with a total of 600 residential units. So in general, like the municipal plan support the request, like the borough and the principle also like related to residential development. There's certainly question like with the on the capacity, the municipal infrastructure capacity to support the project, like traffic, like the sewers, and also like surface water and drinking water. And there's also a section of that land that was used for public utilities that should be dedicated in the proposed development. Like for the public utilities, it could be solved like through a modification of the subdivision plan, like possible crash and lure, or dedicate some land elsewhere, like something that could be easy to maybe to settle. There are several variances, like according to what's being proposed, but we did not get a lot of details with the building plans. We only have like a site plan with some written information. like the building height, like the number of parking spaces and the setbacks and all that. And really, like it's there's not much to add. We had a good discussion last week. So if you have any other questions, would like and or we are there to help you. I see Councillor Bertin has a question for Mr. Boudreau. So the project will only go for in 4, 5, 6 years. So why do we rezone now? Because it will only be done 5, 6 years. Why should not we wait like and then we can apply that? Because the request was submitted because it's based on the purchasing of the land. So the buyer was to have some kind of insurance, like the council supports in principle is the project. So that's why I submitted the request. But if we say if we say we tell them cannot go ahead, like maybe with the council that will be there at the time, he can purchase the land. And if he decide to go forward with this project, he could ask for rezoning then, right? Certainly it could be a possibility. So why are we doing it now? I think it's just a question like for the developer is interested to buy the land, but if the council is not interested, he will not purchase the land. So that's why that's what I understood too. I have a resolution motion, so Mrs. Deputy Mayor. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. And zoning bylaw amendment request from Alex Giroir for an upcoming project. Whereas council received a request from Alex Giroir to amend bylaw Z-14-44 entitled Shediac zoning bylaw to change the zoning of a portion of 3 properties from R2 zone to the R3 zone in order to allow a high-density residential development comprising 4 buildings with a total of 600 residential units. Therefore, be resolved that the council review the file to determine if an amendment of the zoning bylaw is in public interest. Be it further resolved that the clerk shall, on behalf of the council, request the advice of Shediac Planning Review Committee under section 110 of the Community Planning Act on July 20, 2023. Be also resolved that the clerk shall ensure in the name and on behalf of the council that public notice of the passing of such bylaw is published within the time frame specified in section 111 of the Community Planning Act, and that the public hearing be set for August 28, 2023 at 6:30 at the council chambers to listen the objection to the proposed bylaw. So I shall move by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Paul Boudreau. It's a Boudreau team. So this motion, and we will, it's essentially like to start the process to see if there is an interest. So there will be a public audience and there will be 3 readings, and the council member, we have lots of time like to learn about the project and also to vote consequently and also like to make up their mind. There will be like 3 readings. So one question, Councillor Bouchevary. I think it's a little bit premature, but I understand like the developer like to start the request, but we will be looking at municipal plan. So if we go forward like and we put some conditions, and our municipal plan would suggest something else, so we cannot change anymore like the conditions we put with the rezoning. In theory, I don't think we should, but when in the adoption of a new municipal plan, you can maintain like a conditional rezoning that were adopted previously. And the conditions adopted, they would be, if it's the wish of the council, because at the beginning of the plan, like it says, like the old plan will be, it's there's number, and they're listed one by one, and they're all identified. So, and they are reported in the new plan. So, and distinctly. So in the case of a rezoning, essentially like that was not completed. So So the rezoning will be registered. So once it's built, it's built. Like if it's not planned, like. So we did not get into detail. So there could be like some delays and there could be some issues, but as a rule, like the answer would be yes. You can also bring a rezoning with new conditions. Our municipal R1 to R2 to R3. So this is the amendment to the plan that was proposed that we will look at.
It's not the plan itself. But in our municipal plan, doesn't it say they will gradually? That's the amendment to the plan? No, in the plan, it speaks of transition zones. I know that this land is next to R1. So 2 meetings ago, there was somebody who wanted to change the distance between R1 and R3. Don't know where we're heading with that yet, but if we change, it's as if we were always telling somebody, well, you can put R3 next to R1. You just need X number of feet if we accept the other request. But I still think that I believe in R1 next to R2 next to R3, not the one big building in somebody's backyard. If we go forward with this, we're already saying that we're not following the municipal plan. There's lots of examples of existing situations where R3 abuts on R1. It's certainly something that will be part of the discussion during the hearing and the staff's recommendation. These are things to take into consideration, of course. And just one stipulation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but the 2 requests for rezoning, they didn't come here at the same time, but the next steps will be happening at the same time because of the scheduling. So if you have a chance to debate both at the same time, if you want to have one and affect the other or vice versa, there'll be an opportunity to do that because the 2 zoning applications will follow the same path as of this moment. Should you adopt this resolution, it's always possible to adopt modifications to zoning through rezoning, such like height, for example. 15 meters in R3, they're asking for 20 meters. This will be part of the discussion and the council's decision to perhaps enable building up to 20 meters if the council so desires. Same thing can be done with setbacks, maybe 50 meters, 10 meters, maybe 3 meters. It's at the discretion of the council. Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Other questions? Councillor Paul Boudreau. Yes, last week there was a presentation on the project. Is it possible as Danny's team, I know that there's lots, it's far away from now, but to have a document, a type of document on the impact of this project. As I understood, this would be the largest project in the history of the town of Shediac. The financial impact, on the population, also all of the restrictions. Let's not sugarcoat it. To see what a type of project, how it would change the dynamic of the town. Maybe Danny, could your team prepare a team to see what it would look like with this as part of the town? And worry of Patricia is right. There's lots of moving parts. Thank you, Councilor Boudreau. Oh yes, certainly there are issues that I can bring to you. Well, part of the exercise that Jeff and that you'll go through, well, those answers will come out except beyond the strictly financial questions. In terms of the financial questions, it's normal. What apartment, 1 unit, depending on the luxury level of the apartment, it brings in $120,000 of assessment. If you're looking at 600 units building here, it just briefly, the revenue in terms of taxation municipality would be out to 900 to 1.3 million, depending on the value of the assessment. That's per year. If that answers your questions, the impact on traffic is certainly one of the conditions. If we do the rezoning, there needs to be a study done to see what the impact will be on traffic in that region. I can't answer that today, but the process brings you through all those steps. Except for that, I can't see what other information my department can bring you, except other than what the rezoning procedures will do. I can talk to the economic impact is 600 is 1,200 people. It certainly has an economic impact on the municipality in monetary terms for sure, but there's also services that are accompanied with that. It's a good question. You have to look for the positives and the negatives, pros and cons. Thank you, Your Worship. Jeff, if we might continue, I want to be sure that I properly understood what the question, what Councilor Patricia's question here. The municipal plan exists right now. One day we'll prepare another one. Between that period, there's a request for rezoning. But let's say we'll just speak hypothetically. Let's go ahead. Let's say we go ahead with the rezoning. And then we come up with a new municipal plan. I'll be positive in a year and a half, let's say. In a year and a half, we couldn't come back to the rezoning. If we accept the rezoning with such and such a conditions, we can't change the game rules once we've accepted it. If the project has not advanced, yes, for sure, the council could reverse it and cancel the conditional rezoning through the adoption of a new plan. Is it in the interest of the council? There'd have to be a discussion on that front. But if the project hasn't started yet, it's a question of if you maintain the legal status or should be brought into another zone but that's what I thought you would say. If I might clarify, please. It's not a recommendation on our end to say, all right, let's cancel the rezoning. That's what I'm saying. The council has the power. We have the legal right to do it. We'll say it's already zoning R3. We've gone through a whole process. I mean, morally, not, perhaps financially speaking, yes, but not even financially. If a citizen or a developer comes to see us and say, here's my plan, here's what I want to do, are you in agreement? If you're not in agreement, it's done. Then we say we're in agreement. Hypothetically speaking, let's say we say we're in agreement, and in 2 years we change municipal plan and we just sweep the rug out from under them. It would be a funny message that we're sending to any developer, not just him for sure, him or her for sure, but the message, we're open for business, but not really. Anyway, I appreciate your answer. It really clears things up. It scares me a bit, but thank you for your answer nonetheless. That's what you're there for. Thank you. I think it's the first time that one of the members of the council says, sorry, inaudible. Thank you very much, Mr. Boudreau. So let's come back to the initial motion to start the process, to have a public hearing, to consider the request, basically. We need 3 readings, in proper readings. This is not happening just anytime soon. On that question, are you ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. So we'll have 2 things to consider in August. So in terms of unfinished business, there's nothing set aside in the agenda. In terms of new business, one of the councillors had proposed something. Councillor Peter Bro, did you have a question of some sort? Okay. What topic in particular? It's related to the decision made at the last meeting on Lenny's restaurant. You'll allow a question for to the question on that point? Not for now? I really want the members of the council, a bit like Councillor McElroy had done, when you want to bring a topic of discussion or bring forth a motion, have administration know about it. It helps to put it in the e-scribe. We did had a bit of trouble with it last time. But if you simply have a question, I would take it under item 13. Great. Thank you. So Councillor McEnroy has a motion to make. So Councillor McEnroy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make the motion, and when it's seconded, I would like to comment briefly.
Sure.
Whereas the major destinations in Pointe de Chine, Harley Beach and the Wharf attract high volumes of motor vehicle traffic, resulting in parking congestion on public roads in Ward 2, Shediac. And whereas this causes serious safety issues for pedestrians, cyclists, wheelchair and baby stroller users, as well as motor vehicles. And whereas the Provincial Department of Transportation and Infrastructure owns and has jurisdiction over these public roads. And whereas the Provincial Highways Act does not afford optimal options to remedy these safety issues. Therefore, be it resolved that Council supports and approves contingent upon the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure's agreement that bylaw to regulate street traffic and parking in the town of Shediac be amended to include the public roads in Ward 2 of the town.
Oh, thank you, Councillor McEnroy. Do I have a seconder? Est-ce que quelqu'un qui veut appuyer? Councillor Lloyd wishes to
Council,
and also speak.
Your,
There you go.
Mr. Mayor, I second this motion, just presented by Councillor McEnroy.
Thank you. Donc, we have a motion on the floor to extend the parking bylaw, and I think Councillor McEnroy wants to provide a bit more information to that.
Yeah, just a bit of background, perhaps, Your Worship. There was a meeting a week or 10 days ago, perhaps longer than that, with a lot of stakeholders. I think all of the stakeholders present, the RCMP, the Provincial Department of Transportation, District Engineer, the manager, administrator of the Harley Beach Provincial Park, the head of security for Harley Beach. I forget who else, Bob McEwen is there. And the discussion, of course, was around the subject of matter of this motion. And it was concluded actually quite early on in the meeting. The RCMP recommended that the town of Shediac's parking regulation and bylaw be extended to apply to those public roads, which would still remain owned by the province, still remain in the province's jurisdiction. But he explained that the Highways Act, which governs these matters on provincial roads, is not really the optimal mechanism to handle these things. He said it's heavy-handed. The minimum fine is $145. Also, they cannot ticket a person who's an empty vehicle. The driver or somebody has to be in the vehicle to accept the ticket. And that's not really going to do very much good in this case.
Not if they're at the beach at the time.
So following that, and we all agreed, and also I want to emphasize that all of us around the table felt that the most appropriate thing, the thing that we wanted to do first, was a public education program, maybe information items on the windshields or under the windshield wipers of vehicles to explain what their options might be. The park administrator indicated that there are some parts of that provincial park land which are a bit of a walk away from the beach, where he would have no issue with the public parking and then walking to the beach. So we're going to try to not even need to use this sort of thing, but it was recommended that we move in that direction. The representative from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure said he would take it to his department of superiors or whatever.
Okay.
And he said he had no issue with the agreement being sought, but it wasn't at his level that he could do that. So he said, if council wants to go in that direction, I'll go and seek that. I also spoke with the MLA, who said that he couldn't assist with encouraging the provincial government to provide that agreement until council approves the motion. So once council, if council is so inclined to approve this tonight, in his words, I'll be able to go do my job. So there are a lot of folks in Point de Chine who are watching and waiting and hoping that something can happen that can assist them. So with that, I would just ask for and express my appreciation for council's support in approving the motion.
Thank you. Mr. DJ.
Mr. CAO.
One point that I simply want to raise, and I totally understand where the counselor is coming from, and in my previous lives, I dealt with that issue for many, many years, so I do understand the issue and how serious it is. There's two, I was going to raise two issues, but the counselor raised one already, which is the fact that we would need DTI's permission to do anything because they own the streets. And yeah, and again, it would only apply to the public streets, not the private ones.
Correct.
But the second issue here as well is that whenever a municipality puts a bylaw in place, the municipality needs to have the power to enforce that bylaw. Currently, our bylaw officer and the associated costs are not a shared service. Because none of our bylaws apply to the four former local service districts that joined us, the cost associated to that is not a shared cost. It's a local cost. So the bylaw, our bylaw officer, again, would not have the means to go and enforce it. So then it would, I'm assuming it would fall onto the RCMP. Whether or not they have the resources to enforce parking tickets, I guess would be a question that they would have to answer. But that's the only issue. The only concern is that, you know, when you put a bylaw in place as a municipality, you have to have the means to enforce it.
Correct.
And here, where the bylaw officer doesn't have that permission, if you will, to go beyond the boundaries of the old town of Shediac, there could be some issues there. But again, you know, council always has the final say, and if,
Well-
but we would have to look at the budgeting around that position, and it would have to become a shared service, and there would be issues there that the administration and council would have to
Yeah.
look at.
With respect, Mr. Boudreau, I understand that and appreciate that. And it wouldn't, this motion simply generates the request for the agreement of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. If that happens, then the kinds of questions that you raised and the other issues around it actually amending the bylaw would all have to come back to
Yeah.
council.
Correct.
And then
So-
any bylaw amendment
If-
needs 3 readings.
Yeah,
So-
if it turns out that for some reason it's not practical or feasible or implementable,
Yeah, that's a word. Yeah.
given your, what you have just set out before us, then so be it. But I'm prepared to work toward solutions on anything that might come up.
Just
But
wanted to.
yeah,
put it out
Raise
there.
that.
but I guess I just want to reiterate that
Yeah.
at this stage, it's just simply positioning us to ask for permission to be able to look at it.
Sounds good. Thank you. So, and the only comment I'll mention is that, look, this is not the binding resolution that gets it done. This is the start of a potential process where it could come to amend the bylaw, and that's a bylaw that requires 3 readings, same as any other bylaw.
Yep.
So,
Correct.
sounds good.
Okay.
Questions, questions?
Questions?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I did not see
Well, I did,
the button.
I did do it kind of late. Is the bylaw officer permitted to give parking tickets now? There
In
was a timing
Shediac?
In Shediac, because that was asked last year and they said they couldn't, so maybe things changed.
Well, I'd have to check to make sure, but my understanding is he does. I know there are tickets that have been printed, so I assume he's able to use them, but I will take that under advisement and report back to council. I'm not
Be
100%
sure.
Sure.
I know the bylaw officer with respect to he's got to get certified in respect to unsightly premises, which is not a parking ticket, but, and that's another procedure. It's under the Community Planning Act, I believe, anyway, if I recall. So, part of the typical bylaw officer's duties require certain certifications. And so when you have a new person, well, he doesn't usually have all of them at the start, so he just needs to take training and get certified. But I believe that's for unsightly premises for sure, but I believe parking tickets, I would dare guess, but just from the executive director's answer. No, I'll start the motion again. So all those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you.
Demande des renseignements du membre du conseil.
Request for information by the part of the member of the council, Peter Bro. I'm trying to follow the rules here. So given that it's only information, I will speak to the clerk. Given related to the possibility, if we ask the council to the ability to add something to the agenda at this time, is it possible, something that's possible if all of the members of the council are in agreement to add an item to the agenda for right now tonight with unanimous consent? Yes. On the motion that was made at the last meeting on Lenny's restaurant and the adoption of the setback for the tent. Or to review to come back on that issue. It's a good question. If the council made a decision 2 weeks ago, I think so. I know that there's a certain time period. I think it's related to zoning is coming to mind, but I don't know if it applies to an ordinary resolution. It's just based on my memory here. This is having to do with zoning bylaws. It requires permission. It's seeking permission. The motion can be revised if all of the council members agree. I think, I'm not sure what the percentage is actually. 75? Just have to find, I'm just going to look in the procedural bylaws. Inaudible. I know it relatively well. Inaudible. Inaudible. Interpreter apologizes, but it's inaudible. 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 Um, interpreter apologizes, but it's inaudible. Mr. Councilor Bro, will ask you to say, give the subject, the topic, the meaning of the motion, and where you're heading with it. In the opposite sense, given it's less than 30 days, given that it's fewer than 30 days, I think that the council can, based on Robert's Rules of Order, can review the motion with new facts and vote on this motion again. Okay. I think if you look at I'm looking in the Mora. Well, we use the Mora Code Morin, but I'm looking in that one. I understand the meaning of your proposal to bring in an added element to reconsider the question a second time. Okay. Would it be possible to come back to this on the meeting of the 29th in 2 weeks? I'd rather not, because I think that it would be very damaging to the owner. Despite the fact the tent is set up. If nothing is done, I can bring it up to the next meeting. Even if if the municipality receives a complaint regarding the structure per se, it's Plan 360, the Regional Service Commission that handles it, and that will eventually bring that back before the council. So next meeting we'll have something. I'll bring something to that, and then we'll have the answer on that front. And another way, we don't have a meeting where we're voting to give $5,000 the next week. No, bring it down to 3,000. At some point, it's not quite logical. That's a more simple, inaudible. I'll send them to you. Is something that all the members of the council be interested in? Are there something else? No.
Anything else? Perfect. Thank you. So, any other requests from the councilors? I see none. Okay. Yeah, you just press your button, right? Councilor Patricia Book-Travailler. So I was wondering where we were with the multi-sport surface. Was there like a request to go to RFP? Just like we went to a call to tender like right now until June 20th. It would be next Tuesday. Did we ever discuss about a camera system or something? I think some vandalism is done on boards, or someone said like something with the, I don't know who's taking care of that. I'm not sure. It's just like they're saying like they're vandalizing there. I don't know if it's something the administration looked at. No, in the design there's none. But it might be an item to add to the project, but there might be some good spots like on posts, like you could install some cameras. Maybe something we could look mandate, like maybe the administration to get a quote. I think Mrs. Bélanger had something to add. Then already started the project last year, And today, like we're discussing it, we'll continue to go forward with the project. So in different areas in the parks, we will install some cameras. We need to have access to the internet. That's where we're at. So you need the internet because we have to record like everything that's happening. So, and then we'll be able to look at it. We're on it. Thank you. CEO, like it's not only on this site, like we have some problem with vandalism on the at the skate park. We have some at the Pascal Poirier Park here. So it's all our installations. It could be a big project. As she said, it's something we will discuss. Did we get the information for water access or where we're at with this, or did we get any correspondence or anything by email? Yes. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for answers from the Department of Transportation. So we are communicating with them almost every week, trying to get an answer. But we're still waiting to get a confirmation from them. Thank you. That's good. Councillor Emily O'Brien. Just a quick question for Bob. So the work also on the street arena, so it's still there? I can answer the question. Yes, it's going forward. It's just to the entrepreneur, like ask for a delay of 2 weeks because you had a hard time getting like the material. They're starting on Monday, June 19, and the material like will be delivered on the 22nd. So that's good. So we have no like introduction to bylaws, motions and resolution. 15.1. Councillor Joel Després could make this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So a major repair project on the trails in 2024. Be it resolved that council award the engineering work for the multi-purpose trail major storm drainage culvert replacement of the EXP Services Inc. at a value of $72,975.58 net HST included. The design phase services with a value of $29,944.53 net HST included will be drawn from the following account: 28253 special project of the council. The remaining amount will be drawn from the project construction funding source. I shall move. Moved by Councillor Joel Després, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette-Boudreau. Mr. McEwen, I don't know if you could give you like an overview. I know we had received a document. We prepare a presentation. It might be the best thing really, like to give the information to everyone. So you're ready. Thank you, I understand also. I would present before you would do the motion. So maybe just, I will present it in English because my slide.
Presenting about the multi-purpose trail culvert projects and why this is an important project for us at town. So we'll just start off here with a quick map showing our trail network. You can see we have a nice loop network. Currently, there's 2 major culvert crossings on our trail system. The first location is located just east of South Cove Road, and the other location is located just east of Pascal Poirier, just close to where the parking lot is to hop on the trail. It's just located maybe like 100 meters away from that. So to give you a perception of kind of where both those culverts are located. So the first location that's located close to South Cove, to give you a couple of quick facts, and I'll show you some pictures later, the current condition, the state of the culvert. So the existing culvert is a 1200 diameter culvert, or a 4-foot. It's a corrugated metal pipe. There's about 2.5 meters of cover over the pipe, and it's about 30 meters or 100 foot in length. We don't have any records of the installation year. Obviously, this is the old CN railway. We would assume based on the material that it would be installed in the 50s or 60s range based on the type of material that's being used.
Okay.
85, right? Okay, fixed. So what started this whole process in the spring of 2023, we had a partial collapse of the culvert. It's actually located in the trail. If you've been walking the trail recently, you've noticed that there's a sinkhole located just on the side of the trail. So this started this whole process. So we've been monitoring the culvert since then. So we've noticed that during heavy rainfalls and even during the snow melt, we had the inlet of the culverts on the upstream side was completely submerged underwater, meaning that the culvert is obviously a bottleneck in the system. And we've noticed that there's been a lot of erosion and undermining around the culvert. So during high flows, since the culvert is basically underwater, it's kind of doing like the bathtub effect, and it's basically eroding the bank slowly around the culvert. And also the culvert is located in a map water course. So that means that it's part of the provincial mapping, and it's identified as a water course. So I'll show you a couple pictures of the condition of the culvert. So the first picture, the one on the left, just kind of gives you a picture of actually a couple days ago. The culvert's located, like I said, just not too far away from South Cove. It's located, obviously you can see on the picture, like on the right, there is a big kind of embankment there. That's where the major sanitary trunk sewer runs there. So that's a 2-foot diameter trunk sewer, which feeds pretty well the whole part of Shediac. And also on the second picture, you can kind of see that's the sinkhole that appeared during the snow melt. It was kind of in April. We've been kind of monitoring as we're going, but you can kind of see a picture of when it initially started. So those are a couple pictures of the culvert, the inlet and the outlet. You can kind of see on the picture on the left, photo 3, there's a lot of culverts rusted out. There's actually holes right through the culvert. We've seen deterioration that's past, I could say, repair, I would say. Also, the culvert is usually the bottom of the culvert is usually in the worst condition. So we haven't been able to inspect it because the flows have always been quite high, but based on the top part of the culvert, you can see that it's in pretty bad shape. So there's a lot of heavy vegetation around it. There's a lot of sediment, debris around the culvert as well. You can see on the picture on the right, photo 4, that's the inlet of the culvert. That's after last week's rain. You can see that the water elevation is still quite high, and it's obviously, you can see how it's eaten away at the bank. If I can find my cursor here. Right here, you can see how all this soil here has been washed away from the culvert being undersized. So this kind of shows you a quick map. It's a map that was provided to us by NBDLG, and it shows kind of the Shediac Bay watershed, how the stormwater is conveyed through the town. You can see the area that's highlighted in red would be the area that drains through this culvert, which then downstream of this culvert would drain to the Shediac Bay. The area is about 0.8 square kilometers, and it stretches out to be almost 1.7 kilometers in length. So it's a fairly large area. So there's the second location, which obviously with the collapse or the sinkhole that appeared at the first location, it prompted us to have a review of which other large culvert we had located on this trail network system. Another one that was located was the one I'm going to talk about right now, which is location 2, close to Pascal Poirier. So this is why it prompted us to kind of look at that culvert as well. So that culvert is also the same diameter, 1200 corrugated metal pipe as well. This one's a lot deeper. It's about 4 meters deep, and it's a lot longer as well. So 39 meters, which is about 130 feet. It would have been installed likely in the same kind of years as they're close apart. And we also observed that there was also a partial collapse of that culvert as well during the spring of 2023. This collapse is not located on the trail. It's located kind of far away in the embankment, so there's no danger right now. This culvert as well is submerged underwater during heavy rainfalls, as we observed last week with all the rain that we had. There's a lot of erosion around the inlet, so that would indicate that culvert's undersized as well. And the culvert is located in a map watercourse, which is part of the provincial mapping. So this gives you a picture of roughly where this is located. Like on the picture on the left, the parking lot for Pascal Poirier would be just kind of behind me on that picture. The sanitary trunk sewer also runs along this whole corridor. So there is a 450 trunk sewer that runs along here, which is 1.5 foot diameter. Photo 6, you can see a picture of kind of in April. You can see this culvert here is a 4-foot culvert, and you can see how much fill is over top of it. So this is obviously a large scale project involving some pretty heavy machinery to be able to repair it. You can also see that there's a large outlet at the outlet of the culvert. So that would indicate that there's high flows and a lot of velocity. So it's slowly eroding the bank surrounding the culvert. And this is a photo of the culvert at the inlet on the upstream side. So like I said, we observed that there was a collapse during the spring of 2023. You can't see it on this picture on the left, but it's just located in the bank up here. What we observe as well is during that collapse, the whole culvert kind of lifted up. So you can see on this picture, the culvert is kind of perched, I would say. And then this is a picture of actually looking inside of it during some lower flows. You can see the culvert's actually starting to buckle and the hole underneath is rusted out and actually starting to cave in. So this is the same kind of map that shows you the drainage area for this culvert. This drainage area is quite larger. It's actually about 1.4 square kilometers and actually goes 2.1 kilometers in length. So it goes all the way up to Bro Bridge, basically. So this acts as a major stormwater, it's called the major drain for this whole area here. So during a large storm, this is where all the water would be conveyed. And this culvert that we're looking at would be the most downstream system. So that would basically bottleneck the whole system and would back water upstream. So this is kind of our action plan moving forward based on the condition and the state of those culverts. With our municipal operation teams, we've been monitoring the culvert daily, sometimes weekly, depending on the storms that we had last week. We've been having to look at it more often, obviously, with the high flows and kind of seeing if there's more and more deterioration of it. So that being said, we've requested 3 proposals from 3 qualified engineering firms to start looking at the design of these culverts. And we'd like to start the process now, just because if it does become a more critical state, then we might have to act faster. So the timelines that we've put were conceptual design and cost estimates by September, so that we'd have that in place for the 2024 budget. And then we do detailed design and start talking with the environmental NBDLG to get all the permits in place, as these are major culvert crossings in mapped water course. There's a lot of environmental permitting involved. So that would be done throughout the winter months. And then we look at a tendering process of February, March of 2024 with construction in June or July of next year. So the plan would be to replace both culverts at the same time, and then we close the trail during that period so that we can get the work done faster. So thank you for your attention. I put another picture there so you can kind of see what the condition of some of that culvert was.
So June to July, are we talking 60 days?
We'd be looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks, to replace the culverts. It's a large excavation. Like the one located near Pascal Poirier has, to get down to the bottom of it would be over 20 feet deep. It's, if you're doing a 20 feet, excavation that's 20 feet deep, you got to go 20 feet wide, right? So it makes for a pretty massive hole. So. And we have the trunk sewer that runs along that has to be supported during construction. So it adds complexity.
It's not a simple task
for the contractor. Yes.
Okay. Merci.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions in the language of your choice.
Conseiller Paul.
Oui, merci. Moi, je vais sur ce sentier-là.
Thank you. I go on that trail 5-6 times. And could you refer to the photo, like the sinkhole, please? It's one of the first pictures. Yes, that one. So when because I sent a message like to Judy, because it's a major danger. So the only way like they identified it, and the hole is big enough, the sinkhole, and it's deep. If a vandalism like one that takes this barricade and goes in the trail, because we're at a very high risk, because a month and a half that sinkhole has been there. I mean, it's well identified, but if ever the barricade is not there, someone comes in on a bike and fell into that hole, I don't know what would be the consequences for the town. Like I conquered the do like to go ahead. Like the pipe was installed in 1995, and we have a hard time. Like, is there something like just to make the area more secure? The damage like that was done more than a little wood barricade. Well, like a wooden barricade. Well, I kind of did the trick for now, but we have plans like maybe within the next week, like to do like a temporary repair, like maybe to dig, trying to get to the pipe and put like a patch where there's a sinkhole in the pipe, like try to repair it. So they would for this year, but it's still only temporary, like repair. So we still have to do those projects. Absolutely, like. And the other one, like the mayor referred, like culture is very popular, especially June, July, like because yesterday people like they go like they use that trail a lot. So if it's closed like for a period of there's not too many places for detour. So could it be done like maybe September, October? Just to answer your question. So when it come like to do like work like in the map watercourse, the environment only allowed like from June 1st to September 30th, because I don't want to work like in period when there are major rainfalls, because the site could be flooded, would be a bigger mess. But we would be subject to those restrictions. So that's why we thought we would start like June 1st, so right away, and close like the two locations, so it would accelerate like the process. And we could have maybe a detour plan, like because it's very popular. Congratulations, like to for the initiative to go ahead with this repair. Thank you, Councilor Paul. Thank you very much, Danny. The motion was still on the table. Any other questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify saying aye. Against nay? Carried. Thank you. 15.2. We have two resolutions.
There you go.
Thank you. Whereas according to policy 12-09, the following merchants are eligible to receive in 2023 an installment under the commercial incentive policy. Excuse me. Be it resolved that the town of Shediac agrees to reimburse the following under the commercial development incentive policy. Diamond windshields, fourth installment, $3,250 plus HST. Second, GY Enterprises, Inc. Second installment, $10,868.34 plus HST. Third, 715422 NB Inc. Second installment, $8,760.46 plus HST.
So moved by Councillor Murray Lloyd, seconded by Conseiller Jean-Claude Bertin. This is part of the commercial incentives program. It's a 5 years of installments. Right, Annie? Yes. Okay, sure. So whichever one that they're at. So it just it's for the consecutive 5 years after construction. Questions? Conseil Danny. Ooh, Conseil Danny. Mr. Director.
Mr. Director.
them are 5 years, but we do have some that'll be based on 6 years, depending on the volume.
yes.
So they'll be identified. These here are 5 years,
years.
just so you know, and GY Enterprises Dairy Queen. So just for maybe some members of council that didn't know what the company is. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Question, any questions? Conseiller Roland Cormier.
Oui, monsieur. le maire,
Councillor, I had a question on for Dairy Queen. Is it because the rebuild the Dairy Queen was starting again because there was a fire? That's a good question, Councillor Cormier. Yes, it's our incentive policy. Either if it's insurance or not, like as soon there's a new like construction building permit. So that's why we have, it's a motion that was brought, I think it was like the second. If you wanted to do a modification in this case, I'm not saying I'm against, I just want to understand like either like a new construction, like we had a building, but it was destroyed by flames and we rebuilt because it was rebuilt. Would we have the same policy for a house? We have no policy for our houses, only businesses, only at the commercial level. That's a good question. If we look also at the value, so if it increased like in terms of value, so that's why we bring in this here so you can take a decision. It's when they have like a building permit. So
In terms of the motion, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Merci.
thank you. Part 2 of this resolution, Mrs. Deputy Mayor. Economic incentive, like second motion, be it resolved that the town of Sheliak gives a check for the residential development incentive to the following developer. 25 Cornwall Road, Chigdac Apartments, Inc. 62,300 plus HSC, I shall move. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded by Councilor Murray Lloyd. This is for the difference, like either if it's commercial or multi-residential. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor saying aye, against nay. Carried. Next item, I would make a slight change for the liaison councillor, like for urban and rural rights, was Councillor Janice Cormier, because those meetings are always done during the week, like to accommodate, but it can be a little bit difficult for Councillor Harry Michael accepted like to help. So Councillor will replace me like with the municipality of Kapakadi. Cafi, so it's so yeah, I read it in my speech. Well, the francophone, like is for the Cafi, it's like the for the immigrants. Like I would recommend also to make those little changes. I would need a motion. I move by Councillor Roland Cormier, seconded by Councillor Germaine Galland. All those in favor saying aye, against nay. Carried. 17. The motion to adjourn. Councillor Germaine Galland is moving the adjournment. Thank you very much and have a great evening.